what are some real, practical, you and I type people can do these things, ways that we can make money as a homemaker. I'm going to share my top ideas with you here today. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably watched a handful of these videos before where people start giving all these ideas about drop shipping and this and that, whatever, and you can make so much money. And then the reality sets in and you're like, I don't know how to do these things. I don't know where you guys are getting these ideas. Like, there's no way this is going to actually turn a profit for me. And so we're not going to touch on any of those because sure, can they work for some people? Is it possible? Yeah. Is that a practical what you're going to be able to do? No, probably not. We're going to talk about some real things that actually do work. Now, I have been a homemaker for 20 years now. Really have done some of everything. I've been full-time at home, full-time out of the home. I've tried to juggle both. I've owned businesses, worked from home with different ideas, many different combinations thereof. And these are the things that I have found that actually can work for you and I, starting from the very beginning. If you follow these tips and these different points here, you are going to see a difference. And be sure you listen all the way through to the end, because I'm even going to give you some ideas of how the whole family can kind of get in on this on kind of a long-term view that you're looking at to be able to build a cottage industry that can support your family from the comfort of your own home. Now, the first one is the one that I know nobody wants to hear, but it is the most accurate. It is the one that you can start enacting today to see a financial impact today. The first way that you can make money as a homemaker, the quickest way to do this is to start saving, okay? Hear me out. The power of a woman who is able to put some focus and thought and attention into the things of her home is something of a high price value. When you can find ways to be more frugal, to be more cost effective, menu planning, not eating out so much, right? Being able to cook healthy, cost effective meals from home, that can save you oodles of cash right now, today. Being able to really, scale down, to minimize bills, cut out streaming things, go down to one car. There's so many different ways that you can do this, but the quickest way that I've ever seen when we have families going, both of us are going to have to work, there's no way we can be a one income household. When you break down how much money you're making outside of the house, it is always quicker to be able to save that amount of money than it is to go out and replace it with an outside income. And so do not skip over this step. I promise you that if you go through your family's finances today with a fine-tooth comb, you are going to find ways that you can cut out things, you can do it cheaper, you can find an alternative, you can come up with a creative solution that is really going to impact the dollar amount today. Now, the second way here to get you onto this path of making money as a homemaker is, again, one that I'm telling you, don't skip over on, and that is get educated. For me, I guess I luck out because this is my favorite thing to get educated about. I love learning about financial things. I am just driven in that way. I went to college for business. I've owned businesses. Like, for me, I just enjoy that stuff. So if I'm going to sit down and do something that's just totally entertainment value, relaxing, I'm going to watch something, it's going to be a video or something on finances, an educational type resource. If I'm going to read a book, it's probably going to be something that is kind of in this area of educational, real resources that I can utilize in my life. I remember the first time I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad years ago and was like mind blown. I grew up poor, never had any understanding of this stuff. And it's amazing the things that you learn when you really start to get educated. Now it's really easy because there's a bajillion people out here, on the interwebs talking about this type of stuff, but start to get yourself educated. We've even read through Minding Your Business. Dr. Raymond and Dorothy Moore are my favorite when it comes to homeschool resources. And this is kind of a family business type book that they have. This is one that I love, but really start to get educated. There are so many ways and options out there. And I absolutely believe that the Lord has a path for each and every one of us. And so no two paths are necessarily the same, but it starts with education. There's many different things that you can do, that you can make changes, you can be frugal, you can start different things, but you have to know how to do them. And so being intentional about seeking out resources that you can be learning from, you're probably going to have to try a few different things before you find something that really sticks, that really works, right? You're throwing spaghetti at the wall for a little bit to see what's going to stick and what you should pursue. So that means that you need to start getting educated. Now, I'm not saying, make it your full-time job to just watch everything about everything, but start finding things, start pursuing people that are going to help in giving you some educational value. Go to the library, pick up some books, right? Check out some different things so that way you can really start learning about, if you know nothing about business, start learning some 101s of business. If you know nothing about, how to set up an online presence, a website, social media, all these different things, start learning about those. And there's a lot of resources out there. If you just start kind of researching, little Google searching around, you can find these resources. But education should be a lifelong process for all of us. As a homeschool mom, I'm telling my kids, I want to learn alongside of you. I want to give you a love of learning, because if you love learning, you can learn anything, and that's going to take you very far. If you want to get somewhere, you want to succeed, then you need to first be a student, and you want to continue the path of being a student for as long as you possibly can. Now, the third thing that you can do, and I promise you we're going to get into some more details here, but the third thing that you can do to really impact your financial status today is to negotiate your bills. This is something that I think a lot of women are very kind of timid about, and they don't know how to do and don't. But you can call up the companies that you have, right? If you've already in step one, cut out all the extras that you don't have to have, you've removed those, but you have some bills that you have to have. Your internet, for one. You can call these companies and be like, hey, I need to negotiate my bill. This has gotten really expensive. The price has gone up. What can I do? What are the options? When you call, any companies that you have loans with and you want to negotiate your interest rate and things of that nature, you can call and negotiate. Now, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get exactly what you want every time, but that's okay, right? That's the whole art of negotiation. But you can call and you can say, hey, what do you have to offer? What's going on here? What can we do? Making little changes like this, again, if you've kind of followed the first few steps already, you're going to start seeing these start to compound and really add up, where you are saving a lot of money. So maybe the amount that you need to make and bring in is becoming a lot more manageable because you've been able to cut out so much and save in that way, that now we're getting a little more realistic at how much you actually need to be bringing in, because you've been able to save and be resourceful in so many different areas. So don't feel bad to call and negotiate anything that you are paying on. Always ask for any deals or discounts or options that you can bring in that are going to save you money, because even those small amounts are going to add up. And the more you negotiate, the easier it becomes. I really do believe that. So you don't know if you don't ask, so you might as well call and ask. Okay. You're like, all right, now how do I actually make money? Okay. I'm telling you, saving money makes money. So just do that. Get educated, work on those ways. Now, how can you actually start doing something to bring in some extra cash? I got you. First thing you can do is you can sell an item. Now, this can be you're going around your house and just getting rid of stuff that you don't use, right? Posting things on Facebook Marketplace, putting things in consignment shops. Maybe you've got some stuff that's kind of broken and it's kind of been laying around, you're thinking of tossing it out. Maybe put some time and effort into fixing it up and then flipping it. There's a lot of different ways that you can go around your house and just start selling things. You can look them up, whether it's, hopping on eBay or Etsy, or again, just looking at your Facebook Marketplace, going to local consignment shops, things like that. You can start selling stuff that you have laying around. I even oftentimes will have, I'll let friends know, hey, if you guys have anything that you're trying to clear out of your house, you're just going to dump off at a thrift store, drop it off at my house, and I would be happy to kind of spend that time and flip it, whether they want you to split the proceeds with them or they just go, hey, I was going to drop it off anyways, you can have it, do whatever you want with it. That's a great way to really start bringing in some extra things. But the first option would be to sell an item. plant a garden. Even if for us, we're carnivore, but I could absolutely have 8 acres. I could plant a massive garden and have all those things that if I'm not going to eat them, maybe some I would, but if I'm not going to, I could go to the local farmer's market. I could set up a little stand at the road, and share stuff. I think even in suburban neighborhoods, having something like that where you could get fresh garden food from a local family would be something that people would really like. Look at your local farmers markets, local country stores, things of that. There's so many different ways that you could kind of reach out. Again, you don't know if you don't ask. Hey, I'm planting all of this. I'm gonna have a bunch of vegetables. Would you like something like that? Maybe you are really good at baking something. Maybe you can learn about sourdough and start making a bunch of sourdough. Maybe there is something that you're good at making that you could start offering. Maybe it's just hopping on like a Facebook marketplace and saying, hey, I can make this. Would anybody be interested? Maybe it is an actual like crafted good. You're good at sewing, you're good at crocheting, or you can learn one of those skills. There's always something that you can physically make and sell that you're going to get a profit on. Now, it might not be your long-term goal. Maybe it's a very tedious thing. It's not very, scalable or whatever it might be. Deal with that when you get to it. But if there's some way that you can physically produce something and to sell to someone else, that's a great way right then and there to start bringing in a few bucks here and there and really get that ball rolling. Now, the second thing that you can sell is a service. So maybe you're like, okay, I don't know if there's a particular product that I can do. Services are something that I love because you usually have a much lower overhead and a much higher rate of return. People are always willing to pay for an item they need or a service that they would like to have done for them. And so, of course, I think this one might be a little more tailored depending on where you live and what type of a community that you have. But being able to sell things like doing laundry service is a great one that people like. Now, again, if you're just at home, you might have some, kind of cap as to the capability of how much you can take on, but also you could factor in charging and then you just pick up the stuff, take it to the laundromat, do everything for the person, and then bring it back and drop it off. Laundry service is a great one. Pet services are great ones, whether it's pet sitting, pet walking, pet cleanup service. That's another big one that people really appreciate. There's a lot of different ways that you can bring that in. I know I used to have a family that I met with, and for her to be able to stay at home with her kids full time, they started a pet sitting business and they just brought in different clients and they would go around and they had a certain area they'd kind of carved out of their own home where they could set it up kind of like a kennel where they could have animals there. And then they would go and do like at-home check-in services for families that were on vacation or out of town for whatever reason. And it was just kind of built in and something they went and did, and they made a great living from it. There's many different ways to do this. I think house sitting is another one of those services. A lot of people like to know that they can, go out of town or go do the things that they need to do, and yet basic things will be taken care of for them. Landscaping, gardening services. There's so many different things. And again, if there's something that you're passionate about or you know how to do, you can look at that and go, how could I do that for someone else? And then you can start figuring out, again, because you're pursuing getting educated, how to charge for that, how to create a business in that way. Even if it's not like a full-time business, you just take a couple projects here and there, that's totally okay. There's many different ways that you can pick up some kind of side services that bring in an income that can be a blessing to your life now. And the third thing you can sell is your knowledge. I absolutely believe that every single one of us knows something about something that someone would be willing to pay for. That's what so much of the internet is now literally being run off of. Look at this here. You're coming to my channel to learn about something that I have to talk to you about. I have been finding ways to make money from home for the past dozen years, right? And so I've tried many of these different things, trying different things out to find a way to make money as a homemaker, because I wanted to prioritize my family, my home, living my life is I really feel God calling me to, but of course there still has to be money from somewhere. So what are some different avenues that I can try, praying that the Lord would bless them so that we can continue to grow in this? Now, selling your knowledge is something that is really a wide open area. It can be done in so many different ways. But I also want you to be aware that not every single one of them is just like that millionaire idea that's going to start raking in the cash here today. YouTube, for example. I've been on YouTube almost 7 years. And it was only in the past couple of years that we really started making any money at all. And only within the past year that we've made enough money that like we could pay bills, okay? So this isn't something, I've made like 2,000 videos or something crazy on here. We make a lot of content, but it's not like we're making bajillions of dollars off of it. Yes, we make enough to pay our bills, which I'm very thankful for. Our bills are actually very, very small because I do those first two parts and we live off of very, very little. We do that because we have to live within our means and we're happy to do that. But if you're going to expect it to be, you know, you just put the content out there and you're going to have a ton of things come running in, that's really not how it works. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but the number one game here with selling your knowledge is really that it is a game of patience. If you can be patient with it, you will see it come to something. It's just not going to happen overnight. You can write ebooks, you can start a blog, you can create a course, you can do so many different mediums, whether it's, you know, podcasts or video or whatever it might be. Another great way to sell your knowledge is to find a way to do that in your local community. If it's something that you can go and teach to children, that's a great way to reach out to schools, package it all together, reach out to schools and say, hey, for this fee, I can come and be a special guest speaker at your school and teach the children this. Maybe it's partnering with libraries or local community programs that you can come and teach the skill set to a group that's willing to pay. Maybe it's finding a local church or community space that can host the gathering and you post something out there, you market it out to the community members and say, hey, we're going to be at this place at this time teaching this, you know, $5 a person or whatever, you know, come and this is what you're going to get. Make sure you always focus on what they are going to receive. And then they'll say, wow, I can come and do that for only $5. That's a really good deal, right? Maybe it's going and finding community sponsors and things like that. So you can host a free event for the community because the sponsors have paid your fee to come and put it together. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but we all have some sort of area of knowledge about something that we can teach someone else. And it doesn't mean that you're perfect, that you're like the expert of all experts. You still have something valuable that you can teach to someone else. And spoiler alert to all of the things we just talked about, you really want to be doing all of them if you can. We never want to put all of our eggs into one basket. If you study millionaires, you will see that they on average have at least 7 streams of income. Again, education. I'm always studying these things because I find it fascinating. I could care less about being a millionaire. I just find it fascinating. 7 income streams. The more that you diversify, the more that you have a product to sell, a service to sell, knowledge to sell, that means that even if one stream goes a little dry or one's struggling a little bit, you have multiples that you're pulling from. Even having a job, no job is secure. We've all seen that. Layoffs happen, companies close, jobs can go away. And so it's always a really wise thing to be able to pull from different streams of income so that way we're not reliant upon just one thing. I love in scripture that we should be willing to work with our hands so that we're not relying on anyone else. We're living that quiet life, being diligent to our work so that way we are following the path the Lord has put before us, doing whatever it is we might need to do and not having to rely on others to keep us just going. And I remember the first time we read that, it was just so impactful. It really stood out to us as we were studying God's word. And it's been something we've been applying since then and really reaping the benefit of that, of even though sometimes times are really tough and it's very lean, we're still working diligently with our hands and just continuing on knowing that the Lord will bless it if we're walking in his ways, and he does each and every time. Now, the last point here that I want to make is this is great for ways that you can start saving today. You can start making an impact. You can start doing some little side things to bringing in some extra money. But I think the greatest dream for so many of us is being able to grow this into a family business, whether it's just you and your husband, maybe it's you and the kids, maybe your kids are all grown, but you would like something that everybody could come together and do. I think many of us think back on that old ideal of family industry and how beautiful that was and how wonderful that would be to create again, where our children can come work for the family business. They can all grow. We all can just get to live off and be blessed through the efforts that we're doing together. I know that was a really big, important thing for us. And so pursuing a family business is something that as you're growing in your education, right? You're being resourceful, you're trying different things, you're learning throughout the process. You can start to look for ways that as a family, you can all come together. Now, maybe it's through selling an item, a service, or knowledge that you see that, hey, if we all did this together, we could really scale this up. That's kind of like us for our ministry here. We see a lot of opportunities of ways that we really want to grow this ministry here, to get in with local churches, to just share this information with others, to sit down and have these amazing studies and just focus on building up families. We see that to be so impactful. It takes a lot of work. And so finding ways that others in our family can come together and all work in on this. I might be who you see on the camera, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. We actually have 2 families worth of people, mine and one other, working on this on a normal basis to grow it and to make it do the things. So it might be taking one of those items I mentioned before and growing that together as a family. But maybe you start looking at different ways. I know friends of ours, for example, they bought this. It's like a retired city bus that they bought because it was the most cost-effective way. They're trying to move from California to North Carolina, and it just made more sense to buy this bus. It's this amazing bus, and they're going to use it to move their family and all of their belongings to the other side of the country. That's wonderful. But then we start thinking, now that you have that, what could you do with that? Well, you could do bus tours, right? We live in the Blue Ridge Mountains. People love going through the mountains, people doing tubing. I think of bridal parties and different things that love and going out and doing these kind of all-inclusive fun experience type things. You could start a business with that bus. You look at different ways that you could flip stuff, right? Are you handy, or you enjoy painting or learning about how to work with furniture or different, even old appliances, being able to fix them, right? So often people sell stuff that doesn't work when really it just takes a little bit of know-how, a little bit of learning, and you can fix those and turn around and flip them for a great profit. I started a little Etsy shop where I love going to the thrift store and finding little vintage treasures, but I don't like having a bunch of stuff in my house. And so I find fun little vintage treasures and I post them on eBay so that way people can purchase them from me there and I make a little bit of money and somebody gets a really cool, awesome thing that I went out and found because I love finding vintage treasures. There's so many different ways that you can do these types of things. And when you really start to look for ways that you can do this as a family, I think of real estate. I think of anybody who has some kind of handiness, things like plumbing businesses. Anytime you look up boring businesses, those can be gold mines, especially if you have a family who is willing to learn and work together. You can really get out there and build something of substance in a relatively low amount of time, but one that can have a very long-lasting impact for you and those kind of in your family, in your circle that wants to grow in these ways. So friends, I know I just dumped all kinds of information at you, but I pray that that can be a blessing as you go, maybe these are some ideas and some things that you haven't thought of before. What is something you could make? What is something that you could do? What is some knowledge you could share? And even starting before then, what are some things that you can cut out in your home, in your budget today that are going to start saving you money? The littlest things like menu planning, cutting out streaming services, negotiating bills. It's amazing the difference you can make in the just financial footprint that you're working with by doing those simple things. And then you add on making some extra money, you add on building a family business, and you can really come into this amazing space in a short amount of time. Stay educated, stay prayerful, keep moving forward and trusting the Lord to lay that path and to bless it if you are truly walking in His ways. And isn't that what we all want to be doing? Amen. So I hope that this can be a help for you all here today. If you have any questions, you ever want to know something further along this, leave me a comment down below and I am happy to answer it, to show what we're doing or to share more, whatever it might be to help and to serve you. It's what we're here to do. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys a playlist on the next screen of some more videos that I think you'd really appreciate along these lines. And of course, be sure when you subscribe, turn on your little bell notifications and check out the links down below for more information that is our prayer can be a blessing to you and your family. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends.